Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Now we'll be having a Bhagavad Gita class, so we kindly invite you to stay and partake in this experience. Hare Krishna. So we'll start with Jai Radha Madhava. If you know them, please kindly join along. I will lead and you can respond. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Bhagwan ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. So thank you all for being assembled here today and giving up your, what are we on, Wednesday evening today? Yep. losing track of days. So we'd like to share something from the Bhagavad Gita today, from chapter 1, text number 41. So if you have your phones, please, open up Veda base. Then at least you can follow along with what I'm saying. If anybody wants a Bhagavad Gita, I'm happy to lend this copy as well, because I've got it on my tablet. Yep? You've got it, yeah? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I'll take it. Chapter 1, text number 41. So before we recite the mantras or read the text, we'll just recite a quick prayer. It's just very simple. I'll repeat it. I'll say it and then you can repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll read the Sanskrit in a very similar way, line by line. So I'll recite one line at a time, and then you can repeat after me. So has everybody got text number 41? Yep. Do you need the website? Yes. It's vedabase.io. Yeah. .io. And it should come up. There should be various books, and then you can just search for Bhagavad Gita there. Yep. So yeah, text number 41 of chapter 1. Shankaro narakayaiva kulagnanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro hiyesham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. Sankaro narakayaiva kulagnanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro hi esham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. Last time. Sankaro narakayaiva kulagnanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro hi esham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. Does anybody feel brave who wants to try that, leading that? You want to give it a go? Yeah, go for it. So just again, line by line, and then we'll follow after you. Sankaro narakayaiva kulagnanan kulasya cha patanti pitaro hi esham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. Very well said. Would you like to try as well? No obligation. No obligation if you don't want to. Yeah? Fine. Okay. Anybody else? Yes? No? No? Okay. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll explain the word for word. You can just repeat after me as well. Sankaraha. Such unwanted children. Narakaya. Make for hellish life. Eva. Certainly. Kulagnanam. For those who are killers of the family. Kulasya. For the family. Cha. Also. Patanti. Fall down. Pitaraha. Forefathers. He. Certainly. Esham. Of them. Lupta. Stopped. Pinda. Of offerings of food. Udaka. And water. Kriyaha. Performances. Okay, so just reciting the full English translation. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life, both for family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. So we'll just recite one last time the English translation. So we'll do it bit by bit. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life for both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. So I'll just read the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. According to the rules and regulations of fruitive activities, there is a need to offer periodical food and water to the forefathers of the family. This offering is performed by worship of Vishnu because eating the remnants of food offered to Vishnu can deliver one from all kinds of sinful reactions. Sometimes, the forefathers may be suffering from various types of sinful reactions, and sometimes some of them cannot even acquire a gross material body and are forced to remain in subtle bodies as ghosts. Thus, when remnants of prasadam food are offered to forefathers by descendants, the forefathers are released from ghostly or other kind of miserable life. Such help rendered to forefathers is a family tradition, and those who are not in devotional life are required to perform such rituals. One who is engaged in the devotional life is not required to perform such actions. Simply by performing devotional service, one can deliver hundreds and thousands of forefathers from all kinds of misery. It is stated in the Bhagavatam 11.5.41, Devarshi bhutapta nirnam pitranam nakinkaro nayam rinicha rajan sarvatmanaya sharanam sharanyam gato mukundam parihritaya kartam. Anyone who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the giver of liberation, giving up all kinds of obligation, and has taken to the path in all seriousness, owes neither duties nor obligations to the demigods, sages, general living entities, family members, humankind, or forefathers. Such obligations are automatically fulfilled by performance of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So before I share anything, I'm just going to recite a quick prayer, just requesting the blessings of everybody here and of all the previous teachers who have passed on this knowledge and allowed us to share it in the form it is today. So if you know it, you can join along. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just to reiterate my thank you for everybody who has decided to join us today. Really grateful for all of you being here. So hopefully we can share something that will be of value and something that you can take away and apply in your own lives. The primary purpose of me sharing here today is just really for my own purification, so that I actually learn what I'm sharing, because who likes a hypocrite, right? So we're reading from chapter 1, and chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita starts off in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So in this, a battle is about to take place between two opposing parties. You've got one side fighting on the side of good, which is Yudhishthir, and the other side of Duryodhan, who's fighting on the side of evil, envy, all kinds of negative qualities. So at this point, Arjuna asks Krishna, who is his charioteer, to drive in the middle of the battlefield, and he just wants to observe what's happening, who he's about to fight. And so as soon as he comes in front of all these family members, loved ones, he starts to think, I can't fight all my loved ones. If I'm able to kill them in battle, and even that's not guaranteed, then what is there to enjoy afterwards? Because if I was to kill them, then who will be left to enjoy this kingdom? So Arjuna at this point seemingly asks very valid questions. Why should I kill my loved ones? Why should I take part in this battle? And these are all valid questions that we may come across in our own lives. We may not necessarily be about to fight a battle and kill anybody, but the spiritual journey always starts with some form of doubt, some kind of questioning as to, okay, why am I in this situation? Why are certain things happening? And that's really where spiritual journey begins. There's an ancient Chinese proverb that says, he who asks a question is a fool for 5 minutes. He who does not ask a question remains a fool forever. So actually asking questions is really good. Sometimes we say, just ask a very silly question. It's kind of quite habitual. Sometimes we say that. But actually, even though it may appear a silly question, the act of questioning is actually it's a rare gift. And so we come to the point in this Bhagavad Gita where he's now outlining the reasons. So, excuse me, yesterday he was talking about how the wholesale killing involved in this major battle. Now, when I say wholesale killing, it involves not just hundreds of thousands, not just millions, not even tens of millions, hundreds of millions of soldiers who are assembled on that battlefield. So it's actually, the wholesale killing in its true definition. So Arjuna is saying the wholesale killing involved would destroy the family unit and social structure, wreaking havoc for future generations. Because you can imagine so many soldiers assembled in a battlefield and so many people getting killed, surely it's going to have an impact on society. So again, a very valid question. But at this point, Arjuna is also saying, I shall not fight. So what he's proposing is that I'm going to leave this battlefield. It's better to just go and stay in the forest. So this is kind of the first point I really want to bring out from this section, which is that sometimes when we're faced with problems, our natural instinct is to run away. It's actually a very intrinsic thing, like in our culture all around us, there's this concept of escapism. As soon as I'm going through some kind of challenge, I want to run away, or find something to just numb the pain. You know, nowadays we have these weapons of mass distraction, our phones. They're so absorbing, but ultimately all that's doing is just allowing us to escape from the reality, because it's like a virtual reality, right? So when we're faced with problems, our instinct, we should try and overcome that instinct of, let me escape this. One good way of comparing it is, there's this concept of, am I going to try and lighten the load, or am I going to strengthen my back? Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Bhagwan ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki. So yeah, our natural instinct sometimes may be to just, let me lighten the load, let me drop what it is that I'm carrying so that I don't feel as burdened. But how often do we ask ourselves the question, how can I actually strengthen my back? Everyone goes through problems in our lives, right? Who here can say, you know, that they don't have any problems in their life? No one, right? Problems are natural, it's just a part of life. But a wise soul learns to grow through those problems rather than just run away from them. So in this verse, Krishna talks about naraka. So naraka is defined as hell. Now, we generally tend to use the word hell quite metaphorically, you know, like if it's a really hot day, sometimes we may say, oh, it just feels so hellish. Or if we're in a very loud, very dirty environment, all these kind of unpleasant situations, then we might describe them as hellish. And here, it's being attached to the people. So, you know, the kind of people can become hellish. And why is it saying that? So it's describing the quality of people. Like, if we kill all these soldiers in the battlefield, then the people who will be left will just be those who have no culture, no morality. There will just be very less people. And then suddenly it gives an opportunity for a hellish place to manifest. So Arjuna's argument is that he doesn't want this kind of world. Now, that seems like a very reasonable thing to say, right? Like, why should we fight this battle and kill all these people? And to kind of strengthen his argument, going back to this point about the quality of people, if you think about around us, there might be undesirable areas in wherever we live. Not really going to name any places, but you know, if I say to you, like, is there any places that you can think of that are undesirable? Surely some place may be coming to you. Now, why are those places undesirable? Any thoughts? Is it because they're dirty? Social surroundings. Okay, so it's again. First of all, let's just see if there's any other thoughts. Social surroundings is a good one. People. Say again? Okay. Right, crime. Okay. And filth. So hopefully you're starting to see there's a commonality between all these answers that you're giving. Crime is related to people who are committing the crime. The social structure, as you said, just the people. It's generally when you have undesirable people who don't have, you know, the sense of morality or goodness, they create these kind of hellish environments. And when we try and dig a little bit deeper about all these undesirable people, it starts from actually even before birth. So it is said that the kind of consciousness that a mother and father are in when they conceive results in how a person actually ends up being in their life. It plays such a big factor. John Lennon once famously said that most people, in the West at least, are born after a bottle of whiskey on a Saturday night. And there was no intent of having those children. Now, it's obviously a very harsh statement, right? Because obviously not everybody falls in that category. But it's still very stark to understand that there's so many children being born right now who are unintended. And it's so unfortunate. And what's worse is now, because we have access to things like abortion, sometimes those children aren't even born. But from a Vedic perspective, the way that we can try and ensure a good birth for a child is by performance of samskaras. So in this verse, it's talking about the various different duties, obligations that we can perform. So it is said that if we perform samskaras, so even before birth, there's something called the Garbhadan samskar. If we perform these different kinds of samskaras, then that child's consciousness is actually, much higher. Otherwise, even if that doesn't happen, then there's various different things that we can do once the child is born. So trying to instill that culture, ensuring that the child gets a proper education. And then there's even some scars that one can perform after birth. And all of these help post-conception to an extent. Otherwise, what happens is then the children just grow up with destructive habits and then create destruction in the world. So as parents, we have a sense of responsibility to want the best conditions for our children, right? I mean, who wouldn't want children who have, the best kind of upbringing? Another thing to point out then is people don't really have an understanding of the connection between themselves and anything beyond their immediate family. So here he's talking about this concept of pinda. What is pinda actually? It's the offerings to the forefathers, but most people don't even appreciate that. And why is that? So one time there was a gentleman who came to visit Srila Prabhupada, and he was challenging him, about this concept that why are we looking so beyond the immediate that we're facing in our world, the ultimate reality? And he was saying, so he gave an example saying, if I was to create a plate of food and somebody was up on a higher level, say, on the first floor, how can I expect that this plate of food is automatically going to get up there? And so in essence, that's what a pinned offering is. We make an offering of food. So it's, again, a valid question, right? If I'm trying to do an offering for the ancestors, how do I know that it's going to reach those said ancestors? And the reason why people don't appreciate that is because we only have an awareness of our gross body. So just this body that we currently have. But actually, our existence goes far beyond that. Beneath our gross body, so in the second chapter, as the Bhagavad Gita goes on further, Krishna explains that this body after death, it does not actually, we don't actually die. Our body may be killed, but we don't actually die because we are the Atma, the soul within. But even before the Atma, we also have a subtle body. The subtle body is mind, intelligence, and false ego. So at the time of death, the mind, intelligence, and false ego don't actually die. That is the thing, the subtle body, that carries the Atma from one body to another. And for certain sins, such as suicide, getting rid of the gross body means that that subtle body can't actually move on to another gross body. So performing things like Shrad, Pinda, all these things are important for anybody who's kind of, in the situation, and that's what we define as being in a ghostly body. So a ghostly body is just somebody who's still remaining out there, but without an actual gross body. And why is that important? Without a gross body, that subtle body still has all these desires. So I may have a desire to enjoy a nice house, a nice family, a nice car, all these things. But without a gross body, I can't actually enjoy all these things. So that's why all these ghostly bodies that still exist after performing some kind of sinful activity, they try and fulfill all those desires, and they get frustrated because they can't. And that's why it's important to have these offerings of Pinda and Shrad to be able to liberate them. So what does Pinda actually entail? It's food which is actually offered to Lord Vishnu. In the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yagna Shishtashina Santo Muchante Sarva Kilbishahi Bhunjate Te Tu Gam Papa Ye Pachanti Atma Karanat. So devotees are released from all kinds of sinful reactions when they eat food which has first been offered as a sacrifice. So that's why offering of food to the ancestors actually liberates all the ancestors, wherever they are, whether that's in ghostly bodies or beyond. Another thing that we can pick out from these verses is this concept of kula. So it mentioned this word kula, family. Now, family, it's not just referring to the blood family that we may have. It's actually talking about the culture of family. Because nowadays you have families who are, constitute of various different religions, ethnic backgrounds. And so say you have a multi-religious family, a mother who's Christian, a father who's Jewish, or something like that. Or even, let's say, more arbitrary, something that perhaps we might be able to relate a bit more. A father who loves music, but a mother who doesn't hate music. Now, that creates a bit of a conflict in the child, right? Because the child doesn't know which sort of personality to adopt. If we were to take the religious aspect, does he follow the Christian background or does he follow the Jewish background? So it kind of creates this conflict. And this concept of varna mixing then becomes detrimental to the development of the child. And again, as I was saying earlier, when these values aren't aligned, then it creates room or opportunity for that child to develop these destructive behaviors. So Arjuna's point here is to avoid Varna Sankara. Varna Sankara is unwanted population. But unfortunately, what we see in today's day and age is that unfortunately his fears are realized. There is so much unwanted population. People only believe in gross things. They're only just focused on, the external aspects of life. And also, what's also become really rife in today's culture is wanting things immediately. We have instant messaging. We have, instant delivery. Like, your Uber, Deliveroo, everything is instant, and it creates these expectations that I've got to have everything instantly. But it's just focusing on that external aspect. And the only philosophy most people have today is eat, drink, and be merry. There isn't anything beyond that. So this is the so-called progression of our civilization, There's no belief about, okay, I may have had a past life or a previous life. Varna Sankara essentially means that there's no samskaras. And hence that's why there's so many ghostly bodies, because now there isn't an understanding of the offerings that we can make. And, as being aspiring spiritualists, we have a responsibility to pass on these knowledge, because without that, then it's just going to get continuously worse and worse. It's said that when we take birth, we're actually indebted in 6 ways. So the first is to the devas. In this verse, there's this verse that's described, Devarshi Bhutapta Nirnam. So that's basically describing the 6 kinds of debt that we take on as soon as we're born. So the devas are demigods because they provide the different kinds of rains, the grains, all these different things that we just automatically receive. Then to the rishis, the sages, because they've provided the knowledge which we can live a more fulfilling life. And then the bhuta. So bhuta doesn't actually mean ghostly. It just means all kinds of living entities. So we have, other living entities like the cow who provide milk. Then you have the birds who provide some kind of music, like singing. Then you have trees which provide shade. So that we can see just like there's so many living entities out there that actually support us in so many different ways. And then you have apta, which means relatives. And then we've got nirnam, which is human society. And finally pitranam, which is the forefathers, because without them we wouldn't be here. So in this way, we've got these 6 kinds of debt which we have to settle. And the scriptures describe different ways that we can try and liberate this debt. So to the demigods, we can perform some kind of sacrifice. To the sages, we should engage in some kind of study. To the living entities, we offer some tribute. To the relatives and human society, we try and serve society in some way. and then to the forefathers through the Shraddha ceremony. But then, towards the end of this purport, Srila Prabhupada outlines that actually all of these different offerings that we can make, the yagya, the Shraddha ceremony, the pinda offerings, all of these aren't actually necessary if we're performing devotional service. And he goes on to say, we owe neither duties nor obligations to all these various different entities. But he also adds in a qualifier. He says, the path, is someone who takes to the path in all seriousness. So we can't just say, I'm coming to the temple, that means that I don't have to perform all these obligations and duties. We have to take to this path seriously. And by doing so, then he goes on in the last line, says, such obligations are automatically fulfilled. And there's another verse that we can also refer to from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, which says, Yatha taror mula nishechanena tripyanti tat skanda bhujo pushakaha. So in this verse, it's describing that by pouring water on the root, then the entire tree is nourished. It's not like if you go to the tree and you want that leaf to be nourished or the fruit to be nourished, you're not going to water each individual thing separately, right? Because that's not really going to do anything for that tree. But simply by watering that roots of that tree, then that entire tree is satisfied. So using that same analogy, we can understand that actually by serving the Supreme Lord, then all these other obligations and duties we have, all of them are actually fulfilled. We constantly like to give excuses why, we can't practice devotional service. I have work, I have to focus on my career, I have family responsibilities. Like there's so many things that, all these duties and obligations that we take on. And that's all right. We are in this world. We have to partake in all these things. But it shouldn't be at the cost of actually doing that which can liberate us from all these obligations. And we can also learn from the example of Prahlad Maharaj, where, after Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, he asked Prahlad, what can I do for you? So Prahlad said, no, I'm fine, I don't need anything. But then Lord Nrsimhadev insisted, let me give you some kind of benediction. So he said, okay, I know my father was such a big demon. He tried to kill me on so many occasions. All I want is for you to ensure that he is liberated. But you didn't even have to ask for that, because by him being a pure devotee, he automatically liberated 21 generations of his family. So just by devotional service, we can understand how much benefit even extended family obtain. And another thing we can just learn from Arjuna's concerns here about fighting this war. He's giving the reasons that he doesn't want the family structure to be disrupted. He's given various different reasons. So another thing we can take away from that is actually before acting, am I considering how are my actions impacting others? Like we may be in various different situations. Sometimes we have to act immediately. And it's okay. Sometimes we just have to act. But can we go back and reflect, actually, was that the best thing that I did at that moment? But even better is before acting, can we just hit the pause button, reflect what are actions impacting others around us, and then act in a better way? And that will always lead to a much better outcome. So just to summarize, I was discussing about the quality of people in this world and actually how it's so important as early on as possible, if we can ensure that the consciousness of children that we raise is better, then that leads to a much better population of the world. Then I discussed about this concept of the offerings to forefathers, Pinda and Shraddha, and why those are important. But ultimately, if one practices devotional service, then all these are automatically achieved. And finally was just the lesson from Arjuna that before we act, can we just pause? There was this concept that was introduced to me several years ago. It's something called emotional traffic light. So in, like difficult situations, can we hit the red part of the traffic light and just pause, then amber is reflect. What is it that I'm about to do, and can I act in a better way? And then with that understanding, you act, and that's the green. So this model has really served me well over the years, and that's why I thought I'd share it with you. But yeah, I'd like to end here and ask if anybody has any questions. Any reflections as well, anything that you feel you took away that you didn't previously know? Yeah, anything from anybody?
I would like to ask something.
Sure.
Sorry for my English, but
No.
I understood something that if we are devout, this is benefit for our family.
Yes.
21
Gener-
of
generations. Yes.
behind or forward.
Both. Yeah. So it's actually just to repeat your question, you were asking about this concept of becoming a pure devotee, which liberates 21 generations of family. Yeah, I think it's outlined in the Garuda Purana, a scripture called Garuda Purana. And it says, yeah, there's 7 current generations, 7 previous generations, and 7 future generations that are liberated just by us becoming pure. So it's a really powerful benediction. Sometimes, we get quite a lot of resistance within family when we try to take to a spiritual practice. But actually, the best thing we can do for family is really taking on that spiritual practice and really purifying ourselves, because ultimately that's going to give them the best benefit as well. So yeah, nice question. Thank you. Anything else from anyone else? Okay. So we will end here. It's only a few, like 5 minutes before darshan. So yeah, we encourage you to stay, and there'll be Gora Arti at 7 p.m. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavanstam Shri Rupam Chakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Shadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanitanstam Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Shishi Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Gaurnitai ki. Kiba Jaya Jaya Gaurachande Aratika Shobha baje, madhu 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 baje. Sangha baje, ganda baje, baje jagatala. Madhura mridanga baje, haramarasala. Madhura mridanga baje, haramarasala. Ganga baje, ganga baje, madhu 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 baje. Sangha baje, ganga baje, madhu 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 baje. Baje nittagara hari bol, hari bol, hari bol, nittagara hari bol. Nittagara hari bol, hari bol, hari bol, nittagara hari bol. Bahu koti chandajini, bhajana ujala. Jala deshe banamala, kori jala mala. Kala deshe banamala, kori jala mala. Shiva sukha narada, preme gada gada. Bhagadi vinoda deke, Govana sampada. Bhagadi vinoda deke, Govana sampada. Hari bol, hari bol, hari bol, nittagara hari bol. Nittagara hari bol, hari bol, hari bol, nittagara hari bol. Hari bol, nittagara hari bol, hari bol, hari bol, nittagara hari bol.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatyadi Satadine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavedanta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavedanta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Vishnupad, Mohammed Bhaktivedanta Manor, Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Parabhadakacharya, Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Gautam Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haritha Thakur Ki. Premsa Koho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gita Shivasari Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopakuna Shama Kunda. Radha Kunda Giri Govidan Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Dham Ki. Shri Prabhupada Iskon Dham Ki. Gangamayi Yamuna Mayi Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Shri Veda Bhakti Vrinda Ki. Shrimati Tulsi Devi Ki. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki. Shri Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki. Iskon BBD Founder Acharya Jagat Guru. Shri Prabhupada Ki. Sri Sri Radha Gokulananda Ki. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki. Shri Shri Gaura Nitai Ki. Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glory to some of the devotees. All glory to some of the devotees. All glory to some of the devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Glory to Sri Prabhupada. Namaste Narasingaya. He Nrsimhadev Ji, Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ji, Leela Govind Mandir.
Hare Krishna. So thank you everyone for coming to Bhaktivedanta Manor today. So we are serving some Mahaprasad next door in the reception, and the next arti will be at 9 o'clock. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Sagrajatam